and Mahlatse Makudubela, two of the graduates of the Sundowns Pak Tawana project under the tutelage of Professor Tedumitru and some of the coaches in our group. They're going to give us some insights and the experiences of being part of this project some time ago and the success of it. So over to Coach Sudez. He's going to lead us into the presentation.
Hi, Omar. Thanks for that. Let's hope everyone else is muted, Omar, because I think there was some background noise coming through there. Thanks to everyone for tuning in. We have Mahlatse, otherwise known as Skudu Makudubela, on the line. Sienda could be joining us a bit later. He was held up in the meeting. The aim was just to follow up on last week's topic of the Pak Tawana Sundowns project. So we wanted to bring in some of the graduates who came through that program. We mentioned that a lot of them are currently involved in professional football. Some are even playing internationally. Mahlatse has just returned. He was playing in Georgia in Eastern Europe. For those of you who don't know Mahlatse, he was on the books of Platinum Stars. He was with Orlando Pirates. He was with Chippa in PE. And the past season, he's been playing his football in Eastern Europe. Mahlatse, without wasting any time, can we get you on board and introduce yourself, give us a brief background into your career? How did you come into football and where do you find yourself now? And then I will come in with certain key interjections along the way. Over to you, Skudu.
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. Thank you for having me here. It's such a great, it's a great honor to be in such a big meeting with coaches, managements, and technical directors from all over the world. My name is Mahlatse Makudubela. I happened to be fortunate to be part of the Als Pak Tawana, then Mamelodi Sundowns youth project, which has helped me as a player grow as a player. I started off playing football in the dirty streets of Polokwane in Limpopo. And then I graduated. I then went to the Sapa Transnet Sports School of Excellence, where I was in development for 5 years. And then later on was spotted by the project that started with the late Tedumitru, of course, Mr. Sudeshin, and just to name a few, the coaches, Zipodlangalala, Coach Denden Malisela. So we benefited a lot from the project. We then bought into the status of Als Pak Tawana, which was playing in the Elite League, currently called the National Municipal League. We were the feeder team of Mamelodi Sundowns. And what a successful project it was. I had Mr. Sin introduced also. Sianda Kulu will be joining us later. Amongst the group was Sianda Kulu, Jabulani Shongwe, Butlem Kwanazi now playing for Bidvest Wits, Keegan Dolly now playing for Montpellier in France, just to name but a few. So the project has benefited us a lot, you know, also gave the senior team of Mamelodi Sundowns good graduates into the first team. But yes, I graduated from there. I went to Platinum Stars. I played for Golden Arrows. I played for Chippa United. I played for Orlando Pirates. Then I played for Highlands Park before I moved last year to Europe. I'm back now in South Africa. I played in Europe for half a season. I recently got back to South Africa. And yeah, in a nutshell, thank you for having me. And if there's any question, Mr. Scene, you can pose any question and I will then do the answering.
Thanks for that, Skudu. I think it was very brief. I know you are a very humble person. You don't like talking much about yourself. The aim was of this meeting, we've been doing it, as you are very aware, and some of the other graduates, we've been doing it for the past few weeks. We have coaches here from other African countries. We have coaches from Asia. We have coaches from USA. We are trying to start a movement whereby we come with progressive modern training methods, especially how to develop African players and players on other developing continents. I would like to ask you, because you have traveled widely, besides playing now in Eastern Europe, I think you've been going for also assessment and trials previously to other European countries.
Yeah.
How would you compare what the kind of training methodology that you came up under Coach Dan, Coach Zippo, Prof. Ted at the Pak Tawana Sundowns project? Looking back at your time there, I think it was about 8 to 10 years ago. How would you compare those training methods with your experiences now at the PSL clubs you've been, plus at the clubs you've been going to in Europe and your current club?
Overseas.
Yeah.
I would say, like I mentioned before, the training and the exposure, it prepared me mentally as a player. It prepared me physically to take a technical player. I was going into the first teams. The coaches didn't have much to do in terms of my development, the technical awareness of the game. And of course, you know, as a player, being exposed to maximum training like that, you fit to any system of any of the coaches. So I would say it helped me personally as a player a lot. Also off the field, how to conduct myself, because it wasn't only an on the field orientated part of the, you know, plan, but also off the field we learned a lot, you know, the psychological part of the game, how to think, how to handle your problems, how to talk to the coaches, you know, whenever you have problems. So it helped me a lot. Going overseas again, it was like I didn't struggle. My first, I left the project. My first trip was I went to Slovakia in 2015, and then within 5 days of training with the team, they offered me a contract. Then, unfortunately, I still had a contract with Platinum Stars, so they didn't want to buy the contract, and then the deal fell through again. I came back to South Africa. I signed for Orlando Pirates. I played for Orlando Pirates, and when Mushin Etrugal came, he asked me, "Where have you been before?" And I told him about the project that I've been under Professor Ted Dimitri, under Coach Dan Malisela, and they had this kind of program. He was quite impressed with the development, the skill that I portray on the field of play. And he said, I conduct myself very well. And, you know, looking at it and hearing the things, you know, other professional players like Bafana Bafana, then former Bafana Bafana Teko Modise saying, "Listen, Skudu, you have something special." I think from your background where you've been and the coaches, they've done a wonderful job. So it was humbling, and I couldn't take all the credit. I should post all the credit to all the coaches that I've worked with during my development level into my first team program progress, you know, being a professional player. So it helped me a lot. And also going overseas, I learned a lot from other coaches, you know, we shared ideas, we spoke about football. I learned a lot, and it has really made a big impact in my life as a professional player.
Skudu, thanks for that. I think that was very insightful. I would also like to pick your mind because you've played locally for a few clubs. You've traveled abroad.
Yeah.
I think this is a question a lot of coaches, especially in South Africa, would like to ask. For me, obviously, I know you've always been one of the most skillful and creative players that I've ever met in the past 10 or 20 years. There have been many players like you in South African football that we have lost along the way. I would like to just put you under the spot to say, why do you think this happens in South African football where highly creative and skillful players are not fully utilized by coaches or not really embraced into the South African game? We've lost players like
That's a
virtually
very good
yourself,
question.
Jabupules, you know,
Yes.
from
Yes. I don't know. Can you hear me? Is my sound okay? Okay. Yes. That's a very good question, Mr. Singh. You know, we look at our players. I was talking about Brazil. Brazil they have their own culture, their own belief, which was then called the Jinga style, now called the Samba. They believed so much in their ability and their identity as a country. And throughout the years, they've been doing well, you know. I think that thing worked for them. South Africans, and particularly the players, you know, there's a crop of players in each and every generation. There's a player, a special player that comes within the system who is just different from any other players or the crop of group of players that you have. And I think this is where the coaches now need to play a huge role. Technical directors, managers of the clubs, respective clubs, to say, this is a special player. How do you crop this player and help him into the benefit of the whole group? Utilize his skills. And I still remember when I got promoted to the first team of Mamelodi Sundowns, when I joined the senior team, it was then the coach was then Risto Stoichkov just left, and
Stoichkov.
yes, and Juan, who's this?
Johan
Jan Dex
Niskens.
and Juan Neskens and Jan Dex.
Yeah.
Yes, they just taken over. And I sat down with the coach, and then he said, okay, I saw your abilities, I saw your skills and everything. And then the assistant coach then was Als Pak Tawana, and then we sat down and he said, listen, Skudu, don't try and complicate your game. Try and play more effective as a player, you know, use your skills in certain areas and stuff. But one coach came to me and he said, no, one player actually. Papi Zotwani came to me and he said, boy, the reason why these people promoted you, they saw you do something good. So do not change who you are, your style of play, do not change that. Keep on doing what they saw you do. And I think from that day, I said, listen, I'm a pacey, skillful player. This is my game. I'm just going to model my game, try and learn more attributes of the game, more aspects of the game, technically and tactically, but not moving away from what really made who I am, you know. So I think a lot of players fail because they want to completely change who they are, trying to adapt to the modern style of football, or I don't know, you know. You have your own identity, your own style of play, but once you model that, you take that, and then you try and understand what the coach wants. The most important thing is having a coach that understands the player. If you are a skillful player, how do I then use this guy for the benefit of the team? Is the same. I think that's one aspect, that the bridge between the skillful players and making it as a true professional and having a successful season, working with a good coach that understands him.
So I think you mentioned a key point there about having an identity. You mentioned about the Brazilians. I think
Yes.
that's a key lesson all of us could take away. Going back to what you mentioned early, some of your training at the Sundowns project, you mentioned something about the mental factor, and the resilience.
Mhm.
Would you put this down, that development that you had, would you put it down now currently to where you're playing and the mental strength that you needed? Because you didn't go to one of these so-called recognized leagues, but they play football all over the world. Knowing well that the culture, the climate in Eastern Europe is not something a lot of South Africans can adapt to. The language, the culture, the climate, the food. And then something more important, we know Eastern Europe, they go a lot for mainly very physical, aggressive players. And
Yes.
you're
Hello, guys. I think I lost Mr. Scene. I don't know if.
We can hear you, Mahlatse. Carry on. I think you got the gist of the question.
Okay. Yes. Touching base on the mental aspects of the game that we used to undergo during the times of when I was still at Mamelodi Sundowns, the feeder team, of course. It was surprising when I got to one of the PSL clubs and they started introducing what do you call this? The psychological coaches, if you may call it. Bringing in somebody who can sit down with the players and deal with their psychological part of the game. And I said, and I'm like, okay, this thing we used to do when I was still at Mamelodi Sundowns reserve side. And I found it, other players, they just take it lightly. I found it very interesting, and I was more, what can I say? I got engaged every session talking to them and going overseas again. That thing played a very huge role. Yes, I haven't been to bigger leagues where things are in a more advanced way, like you would compare with your Manchester City and Man United. But I was fortunate to visit Manchester United in 2018, and then I took a tour around the stadium. They told me about the culture and everything, and to see what we were doing then and what is done now at Manchester United, and I'm like, only if the infrastructures and everything was put into place, we would have been like, we would have been far, 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 far. It's so unfortunate. Other programs has to end, and they're given players have to move and everything. But it really made me aware that as a player, to be complete, you need your physical, mental, psychological, and otherwise to be ready. You need people who will psych yourself up before the game and after the game, training, the way you eat. Everything was just on point, and it was in line with being a full professional with full potential. I don't know if I missed any other question there.
Yes, Skudu, I think before today's was cut off, he asked like in Eastern Europe, a lot of the teams there's a predominance in how they prefer the bigger physical players compared to our African talented players. How was your experience of being from Africa, but very different in terms of your identity, and how did you cope with that change in the scenery?
The question is a very important one, and because I remember the first time, like almost every team that I went to in Europe, America, they would ask me, how old are you? And then I was 29. I'll say, last year I was 29. I'm currently 30. I'll say 29, and they'll look at me and then they'll be like, 30? Not 20 or 17? And then I'll be like, no, I'm 29. But when we go on the field, what I can do with the ball, no one else can do. And that's where now that thing prepared me. I still say, when I was still at Sundowns, Coach, Professor Ted Dimitri told us, if you look at Messi, if you look at Iniesta, if they were to take off their shirts, no muscles, but football is about brains. They prepared us mentally to be strong, to say if you are strong mentally, you can play this game. This game is not played well, then you need to be physically, conditioned. But if you have the brains, Coach Zippo Dlangala always used to tell us that if you are very aware of where you are on the field, you don't need somebody to tell you there's a man behind you. You always know. So mentally, if you are strong, prepared, and you know your abilities, I think you can play anywhere in the world. Messi is not one of the tallest players. Messi is not one of the strongest players. Yet he's the best in the country. I grew up watching Neymar. When Neymar was snatched by Barcelona, he was weighing 59 kg or 62 kgs, 171, his height. And I was like, if Neymar could be seen by the world and still be snatched by Barcelona, and we are the same height, almost the same weight, what can stop me? Football is not about the height, the physique and everything, but the brains. So I was challenged at one team when I got to Czech Republic. I was told this is not the type of player we are looking for, by just my appearance. But when I got to the field, I changed the whole notion. What I could do with the ball, the players started liking me, and it's very difficult to mark me. I'm fast and quick. Those are the advantages of me being the size I am. But yeah, it all boils down to also what the coaches believe in and the type of players they believe in.
Okay, thank you, Skudu. Coach Zipo, you want to carry on?
Afternoon, everybody, or whatever daytime where you are. Thanks, Mahlatse, for that. But my intention is I will prefer that the coaches participate in this because it's a platform, it's a moment. We have a session where we can engage with this program in a practical way, talking to people that benefited, were recipients of the Maximal Training project. So for me, Sudesh and Omar and other people, possibly we can still have another time, another day. I would rather keep at the back and allow the rest of us to participate and go ahead. Please, Omar, if you allow that.
Okay, thanks, Coach Zipo. Yeah, we're going to open the floor now for coaches. Just wave so that and then you can unmute yourself. So just click the wave icon so that I can see who is first in line to ask a question. Just my question from one of the other coaches on WhatsApp is asking, what do you miss about your development years under Coach Zipo, Coach Dan, Professor Ted Dimitri? What are those important moments that you miss when you look back at your development time with him?
Thank you for that question. First thing out, even as football is a game. Hello, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, carry on, Mahlatse. One time you were not on sound. Now you are. You are okay.
Okay, yes, I said without even a wink of an eye or blink of an eye, freedom comes to my mind. The very first thing I think of is freedom. Before anything else, football is a game, Coach Zippo used to say. You need to be happy, it's a game. That's why Ronaldinho played with a smile. I think this is the key element that brings people to the stadium. If they come to the stadium to see mediocre football, people won't enjoy football. Yes, what I miss during my playing days under Coach Zippo Langalala, Professor Ted Dimitri, is the total football freedom.
Okay, thank you, Skudu. Any other questions, coaches? Just wave the icon so that I can see who's up and who wants to ask a question.
Yes. I see it's quiet. Is there somebody wanting to read it?
Yeah.
Oh, please.
Yeah, thank you, Coach Zippo. Good afternoon, coaches. One question here. I want to check with such program, which age group is relevant to start this program with? The under 12s, the under 15s, under 17s. Where can we start in terms of the age?
Okay, thanks, Coach. Omar, I will answer that question. I will keep it with me. I will answer it at the right time, I suppose, later on, so that we can have as much time as possible with the young man who is with us today. Definitely, Coach Mchali, I will address that question later. Oh, by the way, maybe as to help me answer that question that has been asked, maybe Mahlatse, share with us, when did you go? What age did you go to the School of Excellence? What age did you join the Sundowns Development Project? I'm just saying, maybe it might just also give some indication on this question.
Okay, Coach, thanks for that question. I joined the School of Excellence when I was 13 years, going for 14. It was 2004, and it's a 5-year program where we go to the school. The school, we go straight to the field, only boys. And when I graduated from the school, that's when I joined the program of Maximum Training with Mamelodi Sundowns in late 2008, early 2009. And in that same year, we were a group of, I think, 20 to 22 players. We participated within the 3-4 months of training. We participated in a tournament in Cape Town, the Bay Hill tournament, and we left a mark. We left a mark whereby South Africa was talking about us. We raised eyebrows. People started asking questions about where were all these players all along. And again, it just shows that it just takes people who are willing to sacrifice their time, identify the talent, and just spend time developing players. Because within 4 or 5 months, we're a crop of players that believed in ourselves. I remember when we used to play against then the senior team of Mamelodi Sundowns, they always used to have problems. Whenever we play friendly against them, they would be like, "Are we playing against you guys again?" That thing to say, hey, they are now going to run, look for the ball, because the kind of football that we used to display then, it was just out of this world. I wish I had videos just to share with some of you guys. But yes, graduated from the school and went to join Mamelodi Sundowns.
All right. Can I go? Okay. Mahlatse,
hello. Can everybody hear me?
Yeah, Omar, I can hear you. Carry on, Coach Anton. Move.
All right. Mahlatse, it's Coach Anton here. I actually just want to find out, from interest sake, when you and the other boys who became successful from a Tawana program at the time, we're playing together with all this great technical people around you, guiding you very well. Do you think that you and the boys at the time understood what you were really having in terms of the actual quality of technical team around you?
Yes, most definitely. Thanks for that question, Coach Anton. Most definitely, because look, at first you play the game just for the love of it, but then you see, you know, the way they used to expose us to many methods of training. Individually, we used to train individually, groups, and as a team. And they would show us videos of particularly teams that are doing well that time in the world. Barcelona was our main focus.
Anton, the question?
Omar. Just a moment, Mahlatse. Omar.
Coach Ipo?
I know Mahlatse is on the floor. Just allow him to. Carry on, Mahlatse.
Okay. Yes, as I was saying, you know, the type of training that we were exposed to, we used to watch a lot of videos of Barcelona.
Unmute yourself, Mahlatse.
Oh, sorry about that. Yes, as I was saying, you know, we were exposed to very technical training, a lot of things. You know, we used to watch teams like Barcelona, watch videos. You know, at first, like I said, it was just football for the love of it, but the type of training that we were exposed to, it was so great that we learned a lot. We used to do post games analysis of the game that Barcelona maybe played over the weekend. And as you grow and you progress into professional setup, you get professional contracts and you play higher leagues, you realize this is what is done actually at a professional club, a professional setup. And we started doing it when we were still in development. So you can imagine if boys at the age of 17, 18 can be taken through such training and exposure. By the time they get to the senior team, it will be easy. It will be like second nature to them, you know? So I think it prepared me mentally, physically, and otherwise as a player. And going into professional level and the player that I am now, I am quite aware of what is needed. Yes, we at first, like I said, Coach Anton, it came just as a, you know, oh well, I'm gonna play for Sundowns, this, but the method of training was totally new, that it caught our attention to say, okay, wow, what is happening now? And with lots of repetition and everything, consistency, it prepared us mentally also.
Thanks. I got it.
Thanks, Coach Anton. Is there somebody who wanted to come in? I'm not sure. Looks like Olma is struggling there. I'm not taking over. because I could just be killing you as well. Tingy, I see a hand there. If someone else has a hand, keep it up. At the moment, I give it to Coach Mting.
Can I go ahead?
Please
Good
do.
evening, coaches. Yes, coach. Can you hear me?
I hear Coach Mting. Sorry, I see
Yes.
Coach Shai. You'll come later.
Can I continue? Coach, can I continue?
Yes, Mting.
Okay. Good evening, coaches. Can you help me out here? What made you to believe that you are a special player, or what made you to think you were a special player? Is it because you were trained under the methodology, or it was because you believe you are a special player?
Thank you for that question, Coach Mbingi. And I believe some of us here, well, people that are older than me, they have kids, and kids, for a kid to believe in themselves, a father figure, a parent need to tell them that they are the best. So it starts with the coaches, you know? It starts with whoever is grooming you. It starts with a parent. It starts with a guardian, a coach, manager, to say, look, you've got something special. And as soon as that thing grows in you, you start to believe in yourself. You reach a point where you are like, actually, I'm the best. But I don't want to say it starts with you, me as an individual. No, it starts with the people that I work with. As I grow up, I still have these words in my mind. When I was still 13 years old, I was told, boy, you've got so much potential. I built my confidence on those words. And growing up, going and playing, and then getting selected, and coaches telling you constantly that you are good, you've got potential, and then that thing, you grow in confidence up until such time you start believing in yourself to say, look, I'm a great player, I can do this.
Thank you there, Mahlatse. I had booked someone to come after Coach Mting. Who was it? Before Coach Loiso. Okay, Tony. Coach Loiso. Sorry, Tony, just a moment. Coach